Is blindness a barrier? No.
Is deafness a barrier? No.
Are mobility, learning, cognitive disabilities, speech impairments and others, or even a combination of them, barriers? No way. Lack of accessibility is.
Welcome to Web Accessibility for All.
Follow the blind. This journey starts now.
Hey my friend, welcome back to Web Accessibility for All. I'm Ariel, your host, software engineer, web accessibility consultant, and a blind developer who works with ARIA both in code and in everyday life as a screen reader user. Today's episode is the second part of our mini-series on ARIA. This episode is all about the way ARIA Authoring Practices Guide. We'll talk about what the guide actually is, how to read it without skipping right to the code, and how to follow one of its trickiest patterns step by step.
What is the ARIA Authoring Practices Guide?
If you've ever looked up how to make an accessible tree view or slider or a combo box that doesn't completely fall apart when someone uses a keyboard, chances are you've ended up on a W3C page that looks a little overwhelming, with tables, role hierarchies, keyboard event charts, and a link to a code example. That's the way ARIA Authoring Practices Guide, or just APG. Now let me be clear about what it is and what it isn't. The APG is not a formal spec. It's not some law written in stone, like the HTML or ARIA specifications. Instead, it's a living reference of recommended design patterns, a kind of blueprint library for building interactive UI components that HTML doesn't natively cover well. It's published and maintained by the W3C's Web Accessibility Initiative and is intended for people like us, front-end developers, designers, QA testers, accessibility specialists who need practical guidance, not just abstract theory. Each pattern in the guide walks you through which ARIA roles and properties are required, what keyboard interaction users should expect, how the elements and widget should relate to each other, and how screen readers are expected to interpret everything. If you are thinking,
wait, why not just look at the code and copy it?
I get it, I used to do that too. But if you don't understand why the code looks that way, you'll miss the point. You'll change a few things to fit your app, accidentally break the structure or the keyboard behavior, and end up with something that looks right but isn't usable.
Core concepts, roles, states, and properties.
We need to get fluent in the language of ARIA before diving into the guide. So let's get our glossary straight, my friend.
Role.
In ARIA, the role tells assistive technology what kind of component something is, not how it looks, but what it does. Roles are a promise. You are promising the user and their screen reader that this thing behaves a certain way.
State.
ARIA states describes something that can change, like when a user clicks a collapsed button, ARIA expanded should toggle to true, and the hidden section should become visible. These are crucial for keeping assistive tech in sync with what's happening on screen.
Property.
ARIA properties are usually static. They describe relationships or give labels. They can connect different elements, even if the HTML doesn't make that obvious visually.
How to read the guide without getting lost.
Let's open up the ARIA Authoring Practices Guide and talk about how to actually use it without getting overwhelmed.
Step 1. Don't start with the example.
I know, it's tempting. Don't. If you skip the description and keyword behavior sections, you'll miss which keys should move focus, what's get announced and when, what roles and attributes are required, and what relationships need to be maintained.
Step 2. Start with the pattern structure.
Every pattern page in the APG usually follows the same structure. 1. About this pattern. This tells you what kind of interaction the component is meant to support. 2. Keyboard interaction. This part is critical. It defines exactly what the keyboard user should be able to do and with what keys. 3. Roles, states, and properties. List which ARIA attributes are required for each element in the pattern and why. 4. Relationships. If the elements need to be tied together, this section spells it out. 5. JavaScript behavior. Sometimes included, sometimes not. But this explains how state needs to sync with ARIA and DOM changes. 6. Working examples. These are great for visual reference, but they make a lot more sense after you read everything else. Let's take one of the trickiest patterns, the combo box, and walk through it the way the ARIA Authoring Practices Guide intends. This is where everything we talked about so far starts to click.
The combo box pattern, a step-by-step breakdown.
You've probably seen it 100 times. An input field that suggests options as you type, or a drop-down list you can open, filter, and pick from using the keyboard. In ARIA terms, a combo box is a complex pattern that includes a text box, a pop-up element with options, and a tight relationship between focus, selection, and announcements. Let's walk through it step by step, following the structure of the guide.
Step 1. Pick the right variation.
The guide describes multiple types of combo box patterns. The version we'll cover is an editable combo box with list box, pop-up, and list style suggestion. This means the user types into a text field. A list of options appear below. Arrow keys let them navigate. Enter confirms their choice. If you are building a city search, a product filter, or a select your country field, this is likely your go-to.
Step 2. Create the structure and ARIA roles.
Here's the bare bones structure with ARIA baked in.
Less label. For equals fruit greater. Choose a fruit. Less/label greater. Blank. Less input. ID equals fruit. Role equals combo box. ARIA autocomplete equals list. ARIA expanded equals false. ARIA controls equals fruit list. ARIA active descendant equals /greater. Blank. Less all. ID equals fruit list. Role equals list box. hidden greater. Leslie. ID equals Apple. Role equals option greater. Apple. Less/Lee greater. Leslie. ID equals banana. Role equals option greater. Banana. Less/Lee greater. Leslie. ID equals cherry. Role equals option greater. Cherry. Less/Lee greater. Less/all greater.
Let's break that down. The input has role combo box. This tells assistive tech that is interactive and has a related pop-up. ARIA autocomplete list means the user gets suggestions from a list. ARIA controls fruit list ties the input to the pop-up. ARIA expanded reflects whether the list is currently visible. ARIA active descendant points to the highlighted item in the list. The list has role list box to say this is a pop-up list of options. Each lead has a role option and an ID, so it can be referenced.
Step 3. Handle keyboard behavior.
This part is non-negotiable. The guide specifies down arrow moves to the next option. Up arrow moves to the previous option. Enter selects the highlighted option. Escape closes the list. Typing filters the list, but focus stays in the input. Tab moves focus out. Your JavaScript has to update ARIA expanded to true when the list opens. Set ARIA active descendant to the ID of the currently highlighted option. Scroll the list box so active option stays visible if needed. Update the input's value only after selection, not just navigation. And don't forget to use hidden or ARIA hidden to control visibility of the list box.
Step 4. Keep everything in sync.
This is where most broken combo boxes fall apart. Let's say a user presses down, then down again. Your app needs to 1. Highlight a new option. 2. Set ARIA active descendant to that option's ID. 3. Optionally apply a visual style. 4. Make sure the screen reader announces that option's label, and when they press enter, the list should close. The input should update. ARIA expanded goes to false. Focus stays on the input.
Step 5. Labeling matters.
Use a label element linked with for, or use ARIA label or ARIA labeled by to describe the input field. Each list option should have clear, meaningful text. This is what it means to follow the ARIA authoring practices guide. Not just copying markup, but thinking about behavior, interactions, relationships, and clarity.
Why it matters to follow the guide.
So after all this, you might be thinking,
Do I really need to follow the guide this closely?
I get it. Deadlines are tight. Design systems are opinionated. And sometimes the component looks fine and passes automated tests. But if you skip part of an ARIA pattern, the keyboard support, the live relationships, the little attributes that don't show up in the UI, the user notices. Or worse, they can't even use the thing.
If you're working in a team,
The APG becomes a shared reference. It helps your team align on what accessible means, and it gives QA, design, and dev a common source of truth. No more guessing. If we want a web to be usable by everyone, we just can't guess what is accessible. We need guides, and we need to follow them. Thanks so much for listening to Web Accessibility for All. If this episode helped you see ARIA in a new way, do me a favor, share it with your team, like and subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Let's keep building trust. One role, one key press, one clear label at a time. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe for a new challenge next week. And don't be shy. Leave us a review or ask your accessibility questions online. See you next week for another episode of Web Accessibility for All.